Okay, let's unpack this. We are talking about a figure today who looms so large over music, over culture, really over the entire city of New York, that it's almost hard to see the human being underneath the legend.
It really is.
We are talking about Christopher Wallace.
Better known to the world, of course, as the Notorious B.I.G. or simply Biggie Smalls.
Exactly. I mean, the man is widely considered one of the greatest rappers of all time, the GOAT, according to places like Billboard and The Source.
Right.
He's the savior East Coast hip-hop. He's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee. But when you look at the stack of sources we have today, biographical data, historical accounts, discography notes, what really jumps out is just how short this story actually was.
It is a tragically compressed timeline. We are looking at a life that ended at 24 years old.
24.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
And yet, in that brief window, he managed to fundamentally change the sonic landscape of hip-hop. He shifted the entire gravitational center of the genre.
That's what we're here to do today. The mission of this deep dive isn't just to list his hits. We want to move beyond the King of New York legend and understand the man. How does a shy English prize-winning student from a strict household
Become a gangster rap icon? It's the central question.
It is. And we need to analyze his artistry. What specifically made his flow and storytelling so distinct that he didn't even need to write lyrics down? That part just blows my mind every time.
It's a key part of his genius. And of course, we have to untangle that tragic, complex web of friendship and rivalry with Tupac Shakur that came to define the mid-90s.
I am so ready to get into this. It's a heavy story for sure, but it's also just an incredible story of pure, raw talent.
It is. And to understand Christopher Wallace, you cannot just look at the music charts. You have to look at the sociological context of Brooklyn in the 80s and 90s. You have to look at the crack epidemic. You have to look at the technical evolution of hip-hop flow itself.
Yeah. Let's start at the beginning. Part one, the origin story.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people assume Biggie was just born hard,
Yeah.
Like he came out of the womb wearing a Coogie sweater and holding a mic.
Not quite. Not at all, actually. Christopher George Latore Wallace was born on May 21st, 1972, in Brooklyn, New York. And a crucial detail right off the bat, he was the only child of Jamaican immigrant parents.
That Jamaican heritage is huge for his musical influences later on, right? I feel like you can hear it in the rhythm of his voice.
Absolutely. We'll get to the reggae and mento influence on his flow, but culturally, it just meant he was raised in a specific type of household. His mother, Valletta Wallace, was a preschool teacher.
A preschool teacher. That already paints a very different picture.
And his father, Selwyn George Latore, he was a welder and a local politician, but, and this is a motif we see so often in these stories, he left the family when Christopher was just 2 years old.
So you have the absent father motif right from the start. It's Valletta and Christopher against the world.
Precisely. She worked 2 jobs to support him. She was incredibly dedicated. And by all accounts, Christopher was not a bad kid initially. This is the good kid narrative that so often gets lost in the legend.
What do we know about that side of him?
Well, for one, he was raised as a Jehovah's Witness.
A Jehovah's Witness. I cannot imagine Big Papa going door to door with the Watchtower.
It speaks to the strictness of his upbringing. It was a very structured, very disciplined home. He attended Queen of All Saints Middle School, a Catholic school.
Okay.
And get this, he excelled in English. He was winning awards for it.
That makes total sense, though. When you listen to his lyrics later, the vocabulary, the syntax, the storytelling, it's literary. The man was a writer before he was a rapper. He understood narrative.
He was. The foundation was there. And he went on to George Westinghouse Career and Technical Education High School. Now, if you want to talk about destiny or just a concentration of talent, look at the alumni list of that school.
Oh, this is the famous part.
At the same time Wallace was there, you had future peers like
Jay-Z,
Busta Rhymes,
and DMX.
and DMX all walking the same halls.
That is wild. Can you just
Yes.
imagine the cafeteria rap battles?
Are.
Just the energy in that building.
You have to wonder if they knew, if they sensed they were all on the cusp of changing music forever.
So, okay, he's this good kid. He's doing well in school, winning English awards. His mom is a teacher. Where does the turn happen? How do we get from honor student Christopher to Frank White?
It's the pull of the streets. It's the environment. You have to understand what his neighborhood was like. He grew up in Clinton Hill, right on the border of Bedford-Stuyvesant.
Bed-Stu, do or die.
Exactly. And this is the 1980s and early 90s. The crack epidemic is tearing through New York City. It wasn't just a drug. It was an economy. It was a social force. It changed everything.
It was everywhere. And he got into dealing young, right?
around age 12.
12. Wow. That is incredibly young to be navigating that world.
It is. And the juxtaposition between his home life and his street life is fascinating. There's this one detailed anecdote in the sources that I love because it perfectly captures that duality.
What was it?
He was making good money dealing, but his mother was so strict, he couldn't just come home with new sneakers and wads of cash. She would have known something was up.
Right. The preschool teacher would not be having them.
So he would hide his earnings on the roof of his apartment building. He'd climb up there and stash the money so she wouldn't find it.
That is such a vivid image.
Yeah.
Hiding the drug money on the roof so his mom doesn't find it while she's, like, grading papers downstairs.
And she didn't know. According to her, she didn't find out about his dealing until he was 20 years old.
He kept that double life going for 8 years.
A complete double life. But, the streak started winning. He started gaining a lot of weight, which is where the nickname Big came from among his friends. He started losing interest in school. He eventually dropped out at 16.
And that's when the legal troubles started ramping up, I assume?
Yes. It went from hiding money on the roof to arrest for weapons charges, probation violations. The stakes got higher.
And then the really serious one.
Yeah.
The jail time.
Right. He was arrested for dealing crack cocaine in North Carolina and ended up serving 9 months in jail.
9 months is a long time to sit and think, especially when you're that young. Do we know if that was a major turning point for him creatively?
It seems to be part of the incubation period. It was a harsh reality check. But his musical education had been happening all along, even before that. Because of his Jamaican roots, he grew up hearing reggae and mento.
You can hear that in his cadences sometimes, that sort of melodic bounce.
For sure. He also listened to soul and funk artists like Curtis Mayfield, Teddy Pendergrass, and of course the early hip-hop greats, Run DMC, LL Cool J. He was a student of the game.
I read somewhere he also dabbled in jazz. That seems like an outlier.
It's a critical piece of the puzzle that often gets overlooked. He worked with a local jazz saxophonist named Donald Harrison.
What did he learn from him?
Harrison taught him about breath control and phrasing, not just rhyming, but how to use your breath to write a beat, to pause, to create tension and release. So when you hear Biggie rap later, and he's so smooth, almost like a horn player.
That's the jazz training.
That's the jazz training. He's not just shouting rhymes. He's playing his voice like an instrument.
That connects so many dots. Okay, so he gets out of jail. He's back in Brooklyn. He has this incredible, eclectic musical knowledge. How do we get from ex-con to superstar?
It starts, as it so often does, with a demo tape. He wasn't even trying to become a professional rapper, really. He was just doing it for fun, to entertain people on the block.
So it wasn't a serious career ambition at first?
Not according to the sources. He recorded a tape called Microphone Murderer with a local DJ named 50 Grand, just messing around, basically. But the tape found its way to DJ Mr. C.
Mr. C from the Juice Crew, Big Daddy Kane's DJ. I mean, that's hip-hop royalty.
Exactly. Mr. C was a major tastemaker. He heard the raw talent, the voice, the storytelling, and he knew it was something special. So he submitted the tape to the Source magazine for their legendary Unsigned Hype column.
Unsigned hype was the Bible back then. If you were in there, your phone was about to start ringing. It was the ultimate cosign.
It was the gatekeeper, and he was featured in the March 1992 issue. And that column caught the eye of a young, ambitious A&R executive at Uptown Records named Sean Combs.
Puffy.
At the time, he was still puffy. Sean Puffy Combs.
And the rest, as they say, is history. But it wasn't a straight line, was it? I remember reading about some drama with the record labels that almost derailed everything.
It was the industry game, as he might put it. It was messy. Puffy signed him to Uptown Records first. That's where he got his first real taste of the industry, recording on a remix of Mary J. Blige's smash hit Real Love.
He sounds so young on that track, but the voice is already there.
It's unmistakable. But then disaster struck. Puffy had a falling out with Andre Harrell, the head of Uptown, and he got fired.
Ouch.
Yeah.
So your champion, the guy who discovered you, gets the booth. What happens to Biggie? He's just left hanging.
He's in limbo. He had recorded material, but he lost access to it. He was stuck. But this is where loyalty, and maybe a bit of Puffy's legendary salesmanship kicked in. Puffy went out and started his own label, Bad Boy Records.
And Biggie went with him.
He followed him immediately. It was a huge risk. He was betting on the guy who just got fired to build a new empire from scratch.
But it was a bet that paid off, obviously.
It certainly did. But they had a branding issue right away. He had been performing as Biggie Smalls, which was a character from the 1975 Sidney Poitier film Let's Do It Again.
A great movie, by the way.
A classic. But the name was legally taken by another artist. They couldn't use it.
So they needed a new name, something bigger.
Enter the Notorious B.I.G. And here's a fun fact that I think really speaks to his mindset at the time, moving from the streets to the boardroom. He said the acronym BIG stood for business instead of game.
Business instead of game. I love that. He's signaling right there, I'm done playing on the corner. This is a career now. This is a business.
Exactly. And the career started taking off. His first official solo track was Party and Bullshit on the Who's the Man soundtrack in 1993.
What a debut. I was a terror since the public school era. That opening line is iconic.
It is. But listen to the subtext of that song. The title sounds like a simple party track, but the song was actually inspired by The Last Poets, the revolutionary spoken word group.
Really? How so?
He was using sarcasm to critique the lack of political seriousness in the youth culture of the time. Even while making a brilliant party anthem, it was layered. He was playing both sides.
And then came the remix that changed everything.
Craig Mack's Flava in Yair.
The remix was stacked. LL Cool J, Busta Rhymes.
Everyone was on it. But Biggie's verse is the one everyone remembers. N-words, want to know who's the best, I'm the B.I.G. He just came in and completely stole the show.
That remix hit the top 10. That's what put him on the map commercially, right?
That was the moment. After that verse, everyone knew who he was. He was no longer just an unsigned hype. He was ready for the album.
Ready to Die, 1994. The debut. Just the title alone sends a shiver down your spine. It's so fatalistic.
It's incredibly intense. And there's an interesting backstory there. Biggie originally wanted to call the album The Teflon Don.
The Teflon Don. Like John Gotti.
Exactly. He was leaning into that mafioso persona. But Puffy, ever the marketing genius, insisted on a title that was more vulnerable, something that he felt represented the masses more effectively.
He wanted that emotional connection.
And they settled on Ready to Die. The themes on the album perfectly matched that title. It was this semi-autobiographical journey, swinging wildly from the celebratory highs of making it in Juicy
It was all a dream.
to the absolute rock-bottom depression and suicidal ideation of the final track, Suicidal Thoughts.
That song is still one of the darkest, most honest tracks in hip-hop history. It felt real. That's what I remember from first hearing it. It felt like a documentary on wax.
That was its power. And it shifted the entire landscape, didn't it? Because before this, the West Coast was running everything.
Oh, completely. Dr. Dre's The Chronic and Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style had the radio in a chokehold. It was all G-Funk.
Ready to Die shifted the hip-hop power center back to the East Coast. It was a massive cultural correction. It brought that New York grit back to the forefront. And the marketing was so authentic. Busta Rhymes tells a story about Biggie personally handing out cassette tapes from his home on Fulton Street.
Imagine knocking on a door in Bed-Stuy and Biggie Smalls himself hands you a cassette. That's legendary. But let's pause here and really dig into the how. We've talked about the jazz influence, the storytelling awards. Expert, break down the style for us. What technically made his flow so superior?
Well, it starts with the instrument itself, his voice. He had this deep, distinctive baritone. Rolling Stone once described it as a thick, jaunty grumble.
That's a great description. It took up space in the mix. You couldn't ignore it when it came on.
It commanded attention. But the most legendary aspect of his craft, the thing that other rappers still marvel at, was his process. He did not write lyrics down.
I've heard this, but it still just blows my mind. How is that possible? He just thought of these incredibly complex verses.
He composed them entirely in his head. Producers and engineers who worked with him said he would just sit in the studio, sometimes for hours, not saying much. Maybe smoke, listen to the beat on a loop.
Just absorbing it.
Exactly. And then he would get up, go into the booth, and lay it down perfectly in 1 or 2 takes. The entire verse fully formed.
That allowed for a different kind of rhythm, I bet.
It created what's been called an effusive rhythmic style. Because he wasn't reading from a page, he was feeling the beat in the moment. It feels more conversational, more natural.
Right, it's not rigid.
And he was a master of onomatopoeia, the famous intros, the little clicks and breaths, they're all part of the musicality. Then there are the rhyme schemes. He was a master of multisyllabic rhymes.
Can you break that down for us?
Sure. A simple rhyme is rhyming cat with hat. A multisyllabic rhyme is rhyming a whole phrase with another phrase. Like in Hypnotize, when he rhymes sicker than your average with Papa Twist cabbage. He's rhyming multiple syllables across the bar. It's incredibly difficult to do, let alone to do it in your head.
And the storytelling. He could be so funny, too. It wasn't all doom and gloom.
That's the key to his genius, the range. You have a track like Just Playing Dreams, where he's just fantasizing about sleeping with R&B singers. It's hilarious and lighthearted.
I'll fuck RuPaul before I fuck them ugly-ass X-Scape bitches. It's so raw.
But then on the same album, you can get Niggas Bleed, which is this cinematic, violent, mafioso narrative. He mixed gritty reality with humor and exaggeration. He even admitted in interviews that the lyrics weren't 100% autobiographical facts. He was heightening the narrative for dramatic effect.
He was a storyteller. He understood that a good story needs a little spice, a little fiction.
Precisely. But while his professional career was absolutely exploding, his personal life was getting incredibly complicated. And this leads us to the relationship that would come to define the era, Tupac Shakur.
Yeah. You can't tell the Biggie story without the Tupac story. And it's so sad because they started as friends, right? Like genuinely close friends.
Very close friends. That's what makes the fallout so tragic. In the early days, Biggie would stay at Tupac's home whenever he was in California. Lil Cease, Biggie's childhood friend and member of Junior MAFIA, confirmed they traveled together, celebrated birthdays together. Pac was like a mentor.
Peers even noted that Biggie's early style, his showmanship, was influenced by Tupac. They were brothers in the game.
They really were. Until November 30th, 1994, the incident at Quad Recording Studios in New York.
Tupac gets shot and robbed in the lobby.
5 times. A brutal, near-fatal attack. And by what seemed like a terrible coincidence, Biggie and Puffy were upstairs in the same building working on a session.
And that's where the paranoia starts.
Tupac, recovering in the hospital, came to believe that they had to have had prior knowledge of the attack, that they set him up.
Biggie always denied it, right? He swore it was just a coincidence.
He did. He was reportedly devastated by the accusation. But the seed of paranoia was planted. And when Tupac, while in prison for a separate sexual assault charge, signed with Suge Knight's Death Row Records,
the personal beef became a corporate war.
It became Bad Boy versus Death Row, East Coast versus West Coast. It escalated beyond just 2 men.
And then came the war on wax, the diss tracks.
It started, in many people's eyes, with Biggie releasing the song Who Shot Ya shortly after the shooting. Now, Biggie and the Bad Boy camp have always maintained that song was recorded months before the Quad Studios incident.
But the timing, I mean, if you're Tupac, sitting in a jail cell, hearing that song, how do you possibly interpret that?
Exactly. The public perception was that it was a direct taunt, and Tupac responded with nuclear force. He released Hit 'Em Up.
Hit 'Em Up is, well, it's arguably the most vicious, most aggressive, most personal diss track ever made. He didn't just insult Biggie, he tried to destroy his life.
He claimed he had an affair with Faith Evans, Biggie's wife. He went after Biggie's street credibility, his weight, his friends. It was absolutely brutal.
And what was Biggie's reaction to that?
Publicly, he mostly stayed silent or tried to brush it off with humor. In the song Brooklyn's Finest with Jay-Z, there's that famous line where they joke about it.
If Faith have twins, she'll probably have 2 packs. Get it? 2 packs.
It's a clever line, but man, you can feel the tension underneath that joke. He said in an interview he had to make jokes like that because he couldn't be the guy running around all serious and angry all the time. It wasn't his persona.
But the turbulence wasn't just with Tupac. His personal life at home was, frankly, a mess.
It was incredibly chaotic. Let's talk about the relationships. He married the R&B singer Faith Evans in August 1994. Pretty much right after meeting her, it was a whirlwind romance.
A very, very short time.
But he was simultaneously involved in a long-term, very passionate and very volatile relationship with Lil Kim, who he was mentoring in his protege group, Junior MAFIA.
And then later there was Charlie Baltimore as well.
Right. It was a love square, essentially. A lot of drama, a lot of heartbreak, and there was real pain there. I mean, Lil Kim has spoken openly about being pregnant with his child at one point, but terminating the pregnancy, feeling he wasn't ready to be a father with her.
It's just so much to deal with, especially when you're in your early 20s and the whole world is watching.
And amidst all this emotional chaos, there was physical trauma, too. We often forget about the car accident.
This was in '96, right? The rental car crash?
Yes. He was in a rented Chevrolet Lumina with Lil Cease. The brakes were faulty, they crashed into a rail, and it was a very serious accident.
This wasn't just a fender bender. This shattered his leg.
It broke his left leg so badly that it had to be surgically repaired. He was confined to a wheelchair for months, and even after that, he had to use a cane for the rest of his life.
That cane you see in all the later videos and photos, the one from the Hypnotized video, that wasn't just a fashion statement. It was a medical necessity.
Not at all. He was in constant pain. And he references it in the song Long Kiss Goodnight from his second album.
Used to be as strong as Rippleby till Ulysses crippled me.
He turned his pain into rhymes again. But it had a profound effect on him, physically and mentally.
There's another weird detail from this period I want to bring up. The Michael Jackson collaboration. This time around from the History album.
Yes, 1995. A huge moment for him, artistically.
But there's that strange story about Lil Cease not being allowed in a recording session.
It's a surprising detail, and it comes from Lil Cease himself. He said that Biggie wouldn't let him in the studio with Michael Jackson because, and this is a direct quote from Cease relaying what Biggie said, he didn't trust Michael with kids, referencing the 1993 child molestation allegations against Jackson.
That is just, it's wild. It shows a certain protective side, or maybe just how street smart and cynical he was. He wasn't so starstruck that he dropped his guard completely.
And yet, the engineer on the session said that Biggie was nearly in tears from the excitement of meeting Michael. It's that duality again. The hard, cynical exterior and the sensitive fan inside who couldn't believe he was working with the king of pop.
So we move into late 1996. The climate is getting incredibly dangerous. The coastal feud is at its absolute peak. And then Tupac is murdered in Las Vegas in September.
And immediately, the rumors and accusations swirl. A lot of people looked at Biggie and the bad boy camp.
Was there any evidence he had anything to do with it?
No. Subsequent police reports and investigative journalism have largely suggested the murder was the result of a conflict between the Southside Crips and Tupac's entourage from earlier that night. And Biggie's family and camp provided alibis that he was in a recording studio in New Jersey at the time. But in the court of public opinion and certainly on the streets, the tension was at a boiling point. Biggie genuinely feared for his safety.
I can't even imagine that kind of pressure.
He was getting death threats, he had to hire more security, but he still felt he had to go to the West Coast.
Why? Why would he go to L.A. after all that?
He wanted to try and make peace. He said in interviews he wanted to show there was no beef, but also he had to promote his new album, the double LP Life After Death. So in March of 1997, he traveled to L.A. for the Soul Train Awards and to film the video for the album's first single, Hypnotize.
The Hypnotize video, with the speedboats and the helicopters, it looked so triumphant, like he was on top of the world.
It was meant to be his coronation, but the trip ended in tragedy. On the night of March 8, 1997, he attended a Vibe magazine after-party at the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles.
This is the night.
The party was packed. So packed, in fact, that it was shut down early by the fire marshals due to overcrowding. So around 12:30 a.m., everyone is spilling out onto the street. It's chaotic.
Biggie gets into his vehicle, a green GMC Suburban. He's in the front passenger seat.
They leave in a 2-car convoy. Puffy's in the car ahead. Biggie's car, driven by his friend, stops at a red light on Wilshire Boulevard, just 50 yards from the museum. And a dark-colored Chevy Impala SS pulls up alongside them.
And we know what happens next.
An African-American male, described as wearing a blue suit and a bow tie, rolls down the window. The shooter, he fires multiple shots from a 9mm pistol into the Suburban.
4 of the shots hit Biggie.
And here is a heartbreaking medical detail from the autopsy report. The first 3 shots were not immediately life-threatening. One in the forearm, one in the back, one in the thigh. It was the final shot, the 4th one, that did the fatal damage.
What happened?
It entered his right hip and traveled up through his body, perforating his colon, liver, heart, and the upper lobe of his left lung. That was the fatal blow.
He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, but it was too late. He was pronounced dead at 1:15 a.m. He was 24 years old.
24. Just a kid, really, with a son and a daughter.
And then in the most eerie, surreal piece of timing in music history, just 2 weeks later, the album drops. Life After Death.
The timing is just chilling. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. It eventually went on to be certified diamond, selling over 11 million copies.
And the tone was so different from Ready to Die.
Completely. Ready to Die was desperate. It was about the struggle to survive. Life After Death was about having survived and now dealing with power. It focused on those mafioso themes, a slick pimp persona. You hear the paranoia and anger in tracks like Niggas Bleed and What's Beef, but you also hear the polish and the success.
And the records just kept coming, even after he was gone. He became the first artist to have 2 posthumous #1 singles.
Hypnotize and Money Mo Problems, they were everywhere that summer of '97. You couldn't escape them.
And we can't forget I'll Be Missing You, the tribute by Puffy, Faith Evans, and One Tool.
That song became a global anthem of grief. It cemented his legacy not just as a rapper, but as a beloved, almost mythical figure who was gone too soon.
So let's look at that legacy now. All these years later, we mentioned the King of New York title.
For many, it's undisputed. He influenced an entire generation of rappers, Jay-Z, Nas, Eminem, 50 Cent. Everyone who came after had to reckon with the bar that Biggie set, both lyrically and commercially.
He proved you could be deeply lyrical and have massive pop hits. You could be gritty and smooth.
You didn't have to choose. He contained multitudes. And the brand lived on, of course. The Brooklyn Mint clothing line, which was one of the first to really cater to plus-sized apparel and streetwear.
And his mother, Valletta, started the Christopher Wallace Memorial Foundation, which hosts the B.I.G. Night Out books instead of guns.
Using his legacy for something positive. And his influence pops up in the strangest places. Even in pop culture, like the villain Cottonmouth Stokes in the Marvel Netflix show Luke Cage.
Right. He had that huge, iconic Biggie portrait on his office wall. The character was inspired by that King of New York persona.
It all comes back to that short life, long shadow concept. 2 official studio albums. That's it. And yet, here we are, decades later, still breaking it down, still finding new things in his verses.
It really makes you wonder about the what-ifs. That's always the tragic question.
It hangs over his entire story.
If he hadn't been killed at 24, where does he go? Does he become a Jay-Z level mogul?
I think he had the business mind for it. Business instead of game, remember. I could easily see him moving into executive roles, starting his own label, signing artists, maybe even acting. He had incredible charisma.
Or just musically.
Yeah.
Where would he have taken the art of rapping? He was so adaptable. He could rap fast with Bone Thugs and Harmony. He could rap slow and smooth over an R&B track.
Yeah.
He would have evolved.
The potential was limitless. It's one of the greatest losses in modern music history. You know, you look at the titles of his 2 albums.
Ready to Die and Life After Death.
The irony is just, it's chilling. It's almost Shakespearean.
It's like they unintentionally prophesied this short, explosive impact. He was ready to die, in a sense, on that first album, and he found eternal life after death through the music he left behind.
That is a profound and, I think, very accurate way to look at it.
So I want to leave our listener with a thought today. We live in an era of manufactured viral stars, of TikTok snippets and algorithm-driven fame. In this landscape, could a talent as raw, as technically proficient, and as unwilling to compromise his gritty reality as the Notorious B.I.G. even exist today? Or was he a singular product of a specific time and place that we will simply never see again?
That is the question. A true original.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
Always a pleasure.